G'day guys and welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're checking out probably my favorite deck from the Paramount War meta, which is Smoker. The introduction of black and Smoker is definitely the most competitive black deck that we have out there. There are a few different builds of Smoker that you can go with, but most of them have some sort of control aspect, some more heavy than others. But my deck today, I feel it's a bit of an all-rounder. You got some nice aggression, you got some good control, some good defense going on there. But let's start off with having a look at the leader itself, Smoker. Unfortunately, don't have the alternate art version. It is absolutely gorgeous. But Smoker, black mono leader, so 5,000 power, 5 life. The effect is Don ×1, activate main once per turn. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during the turn. Then, if there is a character with a cost of 0, this leader gains 1,000 power during this turn. So this effect is absolutely insane. As we'll see, there's a lot of removal stuff, which all depends on your opponent's play cost of characters. That's kind of black's gimmick. But the second effect there, if there's a character with 0 cost in play, this character gains 1,000. That comes up quite a lot, especially like all throughout the game. All the searches in this game are 1 cost. So red has a searcher, blue has a searcher, green has searches that all are 1 cost. Purple, if you're playing the Imp or Down deck, that has a 1 cost searcher there as well. The only thing that doesn't have a lot of 1 cost stuff is like the Kaido and then black itself. But there are still some cards in there that are really close, that are 2 cost, things like that. You can quite easily get down to 0 to get off this effect. So, and this effect is really good going into something like a Whitebeard. In fact, with this build, with this deck, I find I'm winning 90-95% of my Whitebeard matchups. That's not a bad one for us. The matchups that Smoker probably struggles with the most is Zoro's probably the biggest one, followed probably by Kinemon. Basically anything that likes to go wide is hard for Smoker to deal with. Anything that likes to throw out big bodies, Smoker can deal with quite easily. But before we move further into the deck profile today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to try and group everything together into things that you probably play for a similar reason. So we're going to look at kind of all like the defensive cards, or the cost reducing cards, or the aggressive cards grouped together. If you'd like that kind of version of the profile, if you find like you're learning more that way, let us know in the comments section. If you find the other way better, where we just kind of go through the characters then the events better, let us know in the comment section as well. Kicking us off, let's have a look at the cost reducing cards that we have available to us in this build. First of all, we are running 4 Tetsuru. So Tetsuru is a 1 cost 2,000 counter, which is great for us there. On play, we can give up to one of our opponent's characters -2 cost during the turn. The other on play cost reducing card that we have is Helmeppo from the starter deck. So 2 cost 3,000 body, 1,000 counter. On play, give one of your opponent's characters -3 cost during the turn. So pairing that with Smoker, that's a -4, that's a -3 right there. So quite easily bringing things down to 0. Next up, for our cost reducing effects that we can trigger multiple turns, the first is Tashigi. So we're running 4 Tashigi. Tashigi is a 3 cost 4,000 body, 2,000 counter as well. Activate main, you may rest this character, give up to one of your opponents -2 cost during the turn. So if Tashigi survives the turn we activate the effect, we can activate the effect again next turn, which is really, really nice, but generally it doesn't survive. And next up, for the multiple ones that we can get off, would be our Kuzan Super Rare. So 4 cost 5,000 body. On play, we do get to draw a card, which is super nice to help replenish the hand. The when attacking is we can give up to one of our opponent's characters -4 cost during the turn. So pair that with Smoker, -5 cost to something, which is absolutely fantastic for us right there. So as you can see, there's quite a few characters that are bringing down cost, and we have access to quite a few of them there. The last card that we have that's mainly used for that cost reduction is just a one of Ice Age, which is a event card. Cost you 1. Main is give up to one of your opponent's characters -5 cost during the turn. So we have 16 cards available to us, plus Smoker, 17 cards available to us that allow us to reduce our opponent's play cost. So as you can see, this will be very handy. In just a second, we're going to go over the cards that help us remove things when they're at that low play cost. So starting off with the on-play removal ones that we have, we're running 4 Kobe, so 3 cost, 4,000 body, 1,000 counter. On play, trash a card from your hand, K up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So straight away, without any of those other effects that we just went over, removing all the small blockers, removing pretty much anything that Zoro is going to play out. But I guess the downside, which is really Black's downfall when it comes to the removal effects, a lot of them require you to trash a card from your hand. So you're using basically 2 cards to get rid of one of their card, which when something likes to go wide, that's where we really struggle, because you can run out of resources really quickly, which is why that Zoro matchup or that Kinemon when they're spamming out lots of smaller bodies or bodies for cheaper can be a bit of a problem for this deck. But as mentioned before, you can quite easily neg 2, neg 3, neg 4, neg 5 with a combination or one of those cards that we spoke about just before, which makes Kobe live for pretty much most characters that will be played out against you. The other on-play removal that we're running just 3 Sakazuki. A lot of decks like to run 4, limiting on this one just because it doesn't have a counter, which is another thing that can sometimes bite you in the butt when it comes to Black, having too many cards that don't have counters in hand. But it's a 6 cost 7,000 body, which is nice and big. On play, we can trash 1 card from our hand, so same as Kobe, KO to one of our opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. So when it comes to Sakazuki, you're pretty much KOing anything that's going to be out there if you have some sort of your other cost reduction effects in play, which, as you can see, this deck definitely won't struggle with taking out big bodies, those big scary bodies. It's just those wide, small little bodies is where we really struggle with. The last on play removal card that we are running is Kuzan, the secret rare version. So 10 cost, 10,000 body, absolutely huge beauty right there. The effects are: your turn, give all your opponent's characters -5 cost. And then on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So that first effect, your turn, does kick in before the on play, so you can play and remove something at the same time then. If you have multiple Kuzans out, like, everything is going to be 0, which is absolutely insane, makes any of your other removal quite live, quite handy. Now we're going to move on to the KO effects that we can get off multiple times. So these ones here are just once you play them out, that's it. You can't get any more removal out of them. The first is our Monkey D. Garp, the rare from OP02. So 2 cost, 3,000 body, 2k counter, also super handy to have in hand. Don ×2 when attacking, K up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So it does require 2 Don, and it does require something with a cost of 0, but you can swing multiple times if it survives to clear out multiple bodies for multiple turns. The other one that we are running, which is absolutely the MVP when it comes to the Whitebeard matchup, is the Monkey D. Garp from the starter deck. So 5 cost, 6,000 body, no counter, which is why we're only running 2 of them. Activate main, you may trash 1 card from your hand and rest this character to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So why I say this is MVP against the Whitebeard matchup is they generally like to throw out some bigger bodies as they're kind of ramping up in their Don. So the first one is they usually want to play out that Vanilla, which is a 4 cost 6,000 power. Garp's removing that, no problem. The next kind of one up, they want to play the Rush Luffy, which is a 5 cost. Smoker in combination with that gets rid of it, no problem. The Ace is the next one, 7 cost. Your cards like your Tashigi or your Tetsuru, and you're removing that, absolutely no problem. When you have things like your Kuzan, either of your Kuzans out with the Garp, you're removing things that are 9 cost. With the Smoker, something that's 10 cost. So you can quite easily remove a lot of bodies multiple times here. But it's just that downfall again of having to trash a card to get that off. So you just got to be quite mindful of how you're managing your hand resources there. The last card that is used mainly for our removal here is an event card, a Meteor Volcano. So cost you 2, main KO to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less. So if you're having out all those cost reduction cards we spoke about before, it's quite easy to get something to to 1, and yeah, quite easily can remove there. The trigger is nice for hand resources, so we can draw 2 cards and trash 1 card from our hand. So really cool to see that. Sometimes you need it, sometimes you're just going to save it because you know you can use that removal effect. So as you can see, quite heavy, which is typical for most smoker decks on that control aspect side of things. Usually if you control your opponent's board, you're in a fairly good place when it comes to smoker. We do have a couple of cards in the deck which are mainly used for their aggression. The first is we are running 2 of the smoker from set 2. 3 cost, 4,000 body, 1,000 counter. All the time, this character cannot be KO'd by effects, which is super handy, especially into the mirror match. This smoker is super good into the mirror. When attacking, if there's a character with a cost of 0, this character gains 2,000 power during this battle. So as we saw before, quite easy to get something down to 0. And so then, yeah, you're swinging for 6,000. When that happens, slap a couple of dots under there. It's getting quite big quite quickly. The other aggression card that we are running 2 of the smokers from the starter deck. Absolutely amazing artwork, by the way. So 5 cost, 7,000 body, no counter. Something also to be mindful of. All the time, this character cannot be KO'd by effects, just like the other smoker, which once again super good into the mirror match. Effects: Don times 1. If there's a character with a cost of 0, this card gains double attack. So just like the other smoker, when something's on 0, we're gaining an effect, but this time it is that double attack. And 7,000 body with a double attack is absolutely insane. Well, you're going to be swinging for 8,000 to get that effect off. Yeah, slap a couple more Don under there, and yeah, it's quite hard for our opponent to deal with that double attack if they don't have any blockers out on board. So when it comes to the point where we need to be nice and aggressive, these are the cards to do it with. Moving on to the more defensive options that we have available to us, we are running 4 of the Rosinante. I think that's how you are pronouncing this one right here. 2 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter blocker. That's basically what it's there for. Either going to use it as a counter from your hand or blocker on board. The other blocker that we are running 4 of the Barcelino. 4 cost, 5,000 body, 1,000 counter. Opponent's turn, this card gains 1,000 power and cannot be KO'd by effects. Super good. Just be mindful that it can be carried by effects on your turn. So say if you're swinging into like a red player usually and you swing into their life, it triggers off a jet pistol, it's going to die because it's not immune to effects on your turn, just your opponent's turn. And yeah, it's a blocker, so it's always a 6,000 blocker, which some people forget that other effect, and they'll swing with the 5,000 body and you can easily just block it there for that 6,000. And the last card that we are running in the deck, and it's kind of used for mainly defense, but it can also be used for that control aspect we were talking about earlier on. We are running 4 Shockwave, which is a 2 cost event card. It's a counter. Up to one of your leaders or character cards gains 4,000 power during the battle. Then KO up to one of your opponent's active characters with a cost of 3 or less. Be mindful, it does say active, so if they're rested, not fair game at all. But it's super cool to have an event that allows you to buff and remove at the same time, so you're definitely running 4 Shockwave. The trigger is you can also KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So a bit of removal all around, no matter how you use this card right there. And there's the deck in all of its glory there. Let us know what you think of the profile and the structure of the profile as well. Give us your feedback right there. But yeah, lots of fun playing black. And hopefully you guys have some fun running around with this list as well. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Stay beautiful, and we'll see you all in the next one.